being with Jose Antonio Vargas is quite an honor. Quite an honor.
Thank you. For heaven's sake, come on. With all due respect to Leader Pelosi and Jose Antonio Vargas, I now know what it feels like to sit next to a rock star, sitting next to Senator Durbin. Throughout the evening, there's been a parade of mostly dreamers who have just wanted to touch him. And it's amazing. You would think I was sitting next to Mick Jagger or something. Jose Antonio Vargas, a Pulitzer Prize winner, a documentary filmmaker, an outspoken advocate on immigration reform, a regular commentator on my favorite TV show, Rachel Maddow. When I first met Jose about 2.5 years ago, it was actually prior to the time that he came out. Prior to his writing of the New York Times Sunday Magazine article. And he trusted a room full of potential allies to reveal his status. And I was worried for him. I was worried for him because there's never any confidence that one might have in the actions of ICE and what might happen to individuals. But there was something about him that was clear to me that there's no way they were ever going to deport this individual. And I told him that day. And over the last 2.5 years, I've discovered several things about Jose. First of all, he's very sophisticated. He's detail-oriented, he's politically savvy, he's what I like to call a rebellious advocate. That it's not so much rebelling against the institution of ICE or DHS, but it's rebelling against the way that one advocates. It's not a conventional type of advocacy that Jose uses. He uses everything that he can, from filmmaking to social media to grassroots organizing to giving credence to the voices of everyone who's affected by immigration enforcement. He's a deep thinker, and you can tell that by reading his pieces. Before writing his, most notably the cover article for Time magazine, he went to everyone that he could to make sure that he understood the issues. He talked to advocates, policymakers, lawyers, immigrants, and other allies to make sure that he understood, how does the visa bulletin work? What are the grounds of deportation and inadmissibility, and what are the waivers available? He needed and wanted to learn not just immigration policy, but immigration law, because he wanted to know what needed to be changed. And in his writing, he's made it clear that while he's for fair and comprehensive legalization, he knows that there are other things that have been left out of the bill and things that should be replaced. So, for example, he's troubled by the provisions that repeal the availability of immigrant visas for siblings of adult U.S. citizens, and the amendment that would do away with married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens who are over the age of 30. He's, of course, troubled by the fact that he couldn't turn around and marry his lover and get a green card because UAFA is not part of the legislation. He's troubled by the due process, the lack of due process provisions that result in the harmful separation of families, and the fact that many crimes that are deportable are actually, in fact, misdemeanors or minor problems that should not lead to deportation. He's troubled by the fact that immigration judges are not given the power to grant a second chance and cancel someone's deportation after looking at a person's entire life. He's called for the termination of secure communities, and he's called for the ending of mandatory detention. Jose Antonio Vargas could have gone and taken a path of advocacy and writing about himself. But one thing that I've learned is that Jose Antonio Vargas is not simply about Jose. He understands and understood the need to go to Alabama, to interview the affected communities, to interview black leaders of the churches there who were natural allies in the immigration battle. He understood that in order to tell a full story, he had to be selfless. And so I have found that Jose is not merely a courageous person, he's actually a humble person. Like so many other dreamers and immigrants who simply are trying to lead their lives peacefully and productively in the context of the family that they have. That's why it is with great honor that I award the Phil Burton Award for Advocacy to Jose Antonio Vargas.
Thank you, Bill. Oh, sit down. How do I put this? Okay, I'm gonna try to keep this really short, because you have dessert. I've been sitting here in this table thing, like pinching myself, because there's a program. And my name is in the program, and so is Nancy Pelosi's and Dick Durbin's and all these other people. So this has been an incredibly surreal evening for me. Bill Hing and I go way back. It was actually February 7th, 2011, at that meeting that Kathy Jin at E4FC. Educators for Fair Consideration. Kathy Jin put together this meeting. I told her I was coming. I had never told a single soul, never told Ariana Huffington, who hired me, never told the Washington Post, never told anybody. And then here I am at this room with Bill, 20 people? And I just talk about the driver's license that I got that I wasn't supposed to get, the forms that I checked and claimed that I was a citizen, even though I am not, the fraud, the lies, and all of it. And one woman in the room was actually going stop talking, stop talking. And Bill, I didn't know who he was. He was sitting there and he was just looking at me. And then I told him that I was about to write this in the New York Times. And then Bill, I'm sorry, this is attorney-client privilege. I have 25 lawyers, he's one of them. So at one point on April 4th, 2011, he sent me this email, and this was 2 months before my quote-unquote coming out. He said in this email, "Did I tell you that I teach a class called rebellious lawyering? Most people think it's about rebelling against the man or various standard institutions, but actually it's more about rebelling against conventional lawyering. Part of the philosophy is to not only be respectful of clients, but to stand ready to be educated by them. This is your case. You get to decide on strategies after thoughtful deliberations, and part of the rebellious strategy is to find and work with allies. You're challenging me to be more creative. That's good. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I read this email in the process of writing this article and admitting to what I had to do to live and survive in this country that I call my home. So when he asked me to come here to honor me with something that I'm really not worthy of, I said, sure, Bill. And then he said, it's a fundraiser too. So I said, okay, I don't have a lot of money right now, but I'll write a check. So please write a check to support the really, really important work that they do. And this very room underscores that reality, all the partners that they work with, the fact that they're not a leader, not just in California, but across the country. So please, please write a check. But really, I'm here for two reasons. One is to say thank you. This was my home. I worked for the San Francisco Chronicle. I went to school at San Francisco State University. I lived here and worked here for 4 years, terrified about what I was doing and where I was going, watching where the DREAM Act was going, trying to figure out to myself, wait up a second, if I don't have the right kind of papers, what if I'm on the paper? I figured having a byline at the San Francisco Chronicle sitting next to Carlo Marinucci was a good thing. And then when the Washington Post came calling and said, we're gonna offer you a job, I had to walk down Market Street one night with my Walkman. Remember Walkmans? It was still a Walkman. And praying to myself and trying to figure out, how do I do this? How do I follow my dream, and how do I honor my family? So the thank you is to the fact that all I did was tell the truth. That's all I did. The fact of the matter is, there are many advocates in this very room, and there are many undocumented leaders, young people in this very room who have been doing this far longer than I have. All I did was write a long-ass article, go across the country in every state that would have me, and be in some ways the walking uncomfortable conversation that I am. My name's Jose. It doesn't get any more Latino than that. I look Asian. It's like Jeremy Lin with some Yao Ming mixed in. I'm gay. I'm undocumented, and in college at San Francisco State, I majored in political science and African American studies. So when people in Iowa and Wisconsin and Wyoming and Ohio talk to me about America, I talk to them about my America and about the fact that I come from the great city of San Francisco, that I was raised in the Bay Area, or being gay, or being Filipino, which is what I am. Being all these things are accepted, that my equality is tied to your equality, that I come to you as full. People like me are not really coming out. We're just, letting you in. So, I'm really here to say thank you to Bill, and say thank you to this organization that's older than I am. It's 1979. To say thank you to Dick Durbin. Gabby Pacheco has become one of my dearest friends, and Senator, when 50, 100 years from now, your leadership on this issue, when it was unpopular, when it wasn't sexy, when people didn't know what it even was, it will live on. And we thank you for that. I am here to say thank you to Nancy Pelosi, who has been not only an effective leader, but the most humane leader you could possibly want, representing you in all your fullness and all your complexity. We are so proud, and I'm so proud to even be sitting at the same table as you. But you honor us by your leadership, and so thank you for that. And I'm here to say thank you to all the lawyers. I am like as lawyered up as it comes. And I owe my sanity and my creative lawyering to a lot of you. And, we appreciate everything it is that you do and the fact that you've been advocates for such a long time. And I guess the last thing I really want to thank for is, as I've traveled around the country, going on Fox News and like doing all this other stuff, and I don't really like talking about my mom. I've been working on a film for 2 years. I've done a couple of other films. This is my second film. And originally I was going to do a different kind of film. And I realized last year when one of my friends said, how can you do a film on immigration and not talk about your mom? I haven't seen her for 20 years this August. So I sent a film crew to the Philippines to document her. And I've spent the film is premiering next month in DC actually, at the AFI Festival. I've spent the past 3 weeks staring at her. I've spent more time staring at my mother's face in an editing room in the past 3 weeks than I have in the past 20 years. And when you talk about Durbin and when you talk about the original dreamers, I think about what my mother gave up so I could be here. And to honor what she did, and to honor what my grandparents did to raise me, and to honor all the mothers and all the parents that dreamed something much bigger than we could ever dream for ourselves. And I thank her, and I can't wait to see her. And the last thing I want to do is, it was at this library, at the San Francisco Public Library on Market Street, that I got to meet James Baldwin. I don't know if you know who James Baldwin is. He's a wonderful, wonderful writer. And Baldwin was gay and black at the time when America was debating the black part and didn't know what to do with the gay part. And Baldwin has this poem that to me has become like a prayer. I'm Filipino, I was born and raised Catholic, but I believe that prayer is something that is not just, it doesn't just happen in churches and synagogues, it happens within all of us. And as we look forward to what is going to be a very difficult and very challenging next few weeks and months talking about immigration reform, I can't think of anything else that is more appropriate for me. I say this prayer to myself when I was in the Hillary Clinton campaign plane going to Ohio, waiting for somebody to tap me and ask me for my Social Security card. I say this prayer to myself when the Pulitzer committee said, hey, you won. And my grandmother calls me and says, what's going to happen when they find out? I say this prayer to myself when all I have is all of us. The poem goes like this. Some days worry, some days glad. Some days more than make you mad. Some days more than shine. When you see what's coming on down the line. Some days you say, oh God, not me never. Some days you say, bless God forever. Some days you say, curse God and die. And the day comes when you wrestle with that lie. Some days tussle and some days groan and some days don't even leave a bone. Some days you hassle all alone. I don't know, sister, what I'm saying, nor do no man if he don't be praying. I know that love is the only answer, and the tightrope lover the only dancer. When the lover come off the rope today, the net which holds him is how we pray, and not to God's unknown, but to each other. The falling mortal is our brother. Some days leave, some days grieve, Some days you almost don't believe. Some days believe you, some days don't. Some days believe you and you won't. Some days worry, some days mad, some days more than make you glad. Some days more than shine. Witnesses, all of us witnesses, coming on down the line. I am an American. I am just waiting for my country to recognize it. And to all the undocumented students here, can you all please stand up? All the dreamers, please stand up. Stand up. Stay. Keep standing up. So on behalf of all of us and all the other people who cannot be in this room, we thank you. And our lives are now in your hands. So please do us proud. Thank you very, very much.